Last week, we talked about the fear behind MSP pricing. And this week, we're going to go deeper because once you get past the fear, the next question is, okay, what should I actually charge? How do I set my prices? And the answer that most MSP owners don't want to hear is, well, it depends. I remember my business school professor telling me that is not an answer. So I apologize to everybody. We will get more specific because it depends not on what you think. It doesn't depend on your costs. It doesn't depend on what your competitors charge. Well, a little bit, but you don't have any competitors. We're going to talk to you about why you don't have any competitors. It depends. Really, truly, right now, it depends today on how focused your business is.
I'm Joe Rojas, and I've built and sold 3 MSPs.
And I'm Jeff Loehr. And today, we're going to show you how to set your price to whatever you want. There's just one catch, Joe. You've got to do something first that most MSP owners refuse to do. So here's the principle, Joe. Price is a function of value. We talk about this a lot, and it doesn't matter whether you know your value or you don't know your value. The fact of the matter is, value is determining how much people are going to pay for your services. If you serve everyone, you are a commodity, which means that your value is the same as somebody else's value. If you think of a commodity, commodities are interchangeable. And as a result, it brings price all the way down close to the cost. So if you're a commodity, price is a race to the bottom. So, I mean, just think about it for a second, right? You walk into a prospect meeting and say, we do IT for small businesses. You've just told them that you're interchangeable with every other MSP in town. The only question left is who's cheapest. You've made price the decision criterion by failing to give them anything else to decide on.
And that was me. That was me for years. My pitch literally was, we're a managed service provider. We handle your IT so you don't have to. and that's what every MSP says. Word for word. I might as well have been reading directly from my competitor's script, directly from whatever they were saying.
From just about every single MSP website in existence today, right?
My goodness.
And again, if every MSP sounds the same, what happens? What happened to you?
Well, I ended up competing on price, every single time. What happens to them is they end up competing on price. I remember sitting in a prospect meeting, and the business owner had 3 proposals in front of his desk, mine and 2 others. And he's flipping between them going, well, you're basically offering the same thing. So, and I knew where that was going. I knew exactly where it was going, right? And then comes the worst part. You start going line by line, right? Of the proposal, trying to find things to cut out. What if we only do 6 days? What if we, instead of 7, we do 6? What if we only monitor the network during business hours? You're crossing out bullet points, trying to get your number down. But what's really painful is that inside, deep down in your gut, that cutting those line items doesn't mean a thing because you're going to do it anyway. When they call, you're just going to do it. All you're doing is cheating yourself out of money. And you're still going to get that call on Sunday night. You're going to still get that alert at 2 a.m. And all you've done is lower your price and set yourself up to over deliver and get underpaid. And it happens all the time. It's a losing game, Jeff. It's a losing game.
And it's what everybody comes up against, right? Can you adjust the bullet points? Can you adjust a line here, a line there? And it just doesn't, it looks like it's going to change effort, but it doesn't change effort. And in fact, if you're doing a different setup for every one of your clients, it's going to increase your effort. It makes it hard. Right. But what that's buying into is the so who's cheapest line. And that's where it goes when you are a commodity producer. It's where it has to go. It's not that your clients are it's not that your clients are cheap. It's not that they can't pay for things. It's not that they won't pay for things. It's that you're not giving them the opportunity to see what's different. So what most MSP owners do is that they drop their price to win the deal, or they lose the deal and they blame the market, or they blame the clients. Like I just said, they're cheap, or nobody wants to pay for quality. But you haven't told them why what you're doing is quality, right? Like it's like we expect people to understand that we're quality and they're not, but we haven't told them what it is about us that makes us quality. We haven't connected with them on what that value is. You positioned yourself as a commodity, so you are being treated like one. The race to the bottom isn't something that happens to you. It's something that you create by refusing to get specific about whom you serve and what problem you solve.
Look, man, I want to be honest. Getting specific feels terrifying. Terrifying. When someone told me that I had to pick one type of customer and focus on them, my first reaction was, are you insane? Are you nuts? I'm going to cut my market in half. It felt like the opposite of growth.
And that's the instinct that almost every MSP owner, no, not MSP owner, that's the instinct that almost every
Mm,
entrepreneur has.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, everywhere starting a business. This isn't just about MSPs, right? This is fundamental to our brains. If
Mm,
I narrow my focus, then I'm only talking to a few hundred or a few thousand people. I'll have fewer prospects.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
on the surface, it makes sense, right? Because you like the market is smaller. You're going after everybody in the world. You're going after 10 billion people. Going after your neighborhood. You're going after 1,000 people. It feels completely um, like you are cutting off your market. But that's wrong. See, because narrowing your market, you've learned, right, effectively increases the size. Here's
Yeah.
why. When you focus on everyone, nobody knows you, and you can't get your voice out there because there are all these companies spending all of this money all over the place, and you have to compete with all of them. It's impossible. But when you focus on one profile, you become known as the one who can solve the problems in that space. You are the name in that space. Maybe most of the world doesn't know who you are, but the people who matter, the people who need and want your services, they know. So referrals come faster. Your marketing resonates deeper, connects. Your close rate goes up, and your
Mm,
price becomes less relevant because you're no longer being compared to everybody else. You are showing them your value.
yeah.
So here's the reframe for today. Most MSPs think they have a pricing problem, but they don't. They have a positioning problem. And the positioning starts with three decisions that most MSP owners, most entrepreneurs have never made clearly. And the first one is, who is your ideal client? It cannot be small business.
Mm-mm.
I say this all the time. Small business is 95% of all businesses in the US, and nobody's going to turn down a big offer from the other five, right? So small business is everybody. It can't be companies with 10 to 50 employees. It has to be a specific client profile with a specific problem. And you have to be able to identify that profile clearly,
Yeah.
describe them so someone else would recognize them, know where they congregate so you can go put your information in front of them, right?
Hmm.
And the key is to know that they share a common problem that you solve. If you can't answer those questions, you can't you can't agree with all of those statements, I suppose. Um, then you don't have an ideal client profile. You haven't identified your ideal client. You have a wish list essentially. So
Yeah.
the second decision is, what is your product? See, because it's not managed IT services, right? It's got to be something specific to a client's specific problem. Like one of our clients, his cybersecurity was derm care because he works with dermatologists. It has to be something you can describe in terms of the business outcome it delivers. Not just the technology it includes, but what does this enable at your client's space, in your client's business? It doesn't even matter what technology it includes.
Yeah.
What matters is what the outcome is. And then the third one is, what's it worth? And this isn't the cost to you. It's really the value to them. What does it save? What does it prevent? What does it enable? And when you know that number, your price becomes, I want to say obvious, but maybe it's not exactly obvious, but it you can see that your price shouldn't be as low as what you were charging.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't seem as much to you when you understand the problem.
And
So
the value.
yeah, when you understand the problem and the value that you provide, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a little what happened when I finally made those three decisions in my second MSP, and I picked a vertical. I focus on architecture firms, and I didn't just say we do IT for architects. I built a solution around specific problems that architects have. They run massive CAD files that choke on bad networks. If you have a bad network, especially back then, 2007, good God, the networks was so slow. And it just like it just choked out the whole thing, right? So I built better networks. They have project timelines. And one day of downtime can cost them penalties, deadline penalties can cost them tens of thousands, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And their compliance requirements around project documentation are super specific and non-negotiable. They have to store stuff forever because the Department of Building could come 20 years from now looking for that plan. So you have to have backups of the backup of the backup. So I packaged a solution around those problems. I named it, I priced it. It was their technology blueprint because they were architects, right? So I built it around their stuff. And it was based on the value of preventing a missed deadline or a compliance failure, not based on my cost per endpoint. And the moment I did that, objections disappeared. They disappeared because they knew I could help them make more money, show up on time, on budget, meet their requirements, all that stuff. I wasn't being compared to generalist MSPs down the street anymore. And I was able to charge more than 3 times as much as my closest competitor. I was a guy who understood architecture firms. And nobody else was even in the conversation. They weren't even talking about this stuff because everybody was like, I'll handle your IT so you can handle your business.
And I think that's the key, right? The standard line. Everybody's selling the standard line. But that's the key insight, right? That's the key thing that we've got to get is that you are delivering a specific solution to architects that they highly value. And this isn't to say that everybody's going to agree to your pricing, that nobody's going to complain about it. That's fine. You don't need everybody to. You need your clients to. You need a percentage of your clients to, because it doesn't have to fit everybody. It just has to be valuable to a segment of the population that wants it. And invariably that's going to be the minority of people out there. But it's a larger market than what you are going after now. Now, just coming back to Joe's insight, right? He didn't raise prices by getting better at negotiating, by getting better at sales, by getting better at understanding the sales pain or quantifying their budgets. He raised prices by getting specific about
Mm-hmm.
whom he served. The
Yeah.
price followed the position. And so that's what I mean when I say this isn't a pricing exercise, it's a product design exercise.
Amen.
Marketing starts with product design. You are redesigning your business around a specific market with a specific problem and building a solution that's worth what you want to charge.
Good. So let's talk. Let's walk through this. If you're sitting there right now selling IT to everybody and competing on price, here are the 4 steps to get you out of that trap. And step one is pick your market. You have to define who that ideal client is. And I know that it feels scary, feels terrifying. You don't have to fire all your other clients tomorrow. I promise. You don't have to. But you need to pick a focus to lead with. You have to lead with a focus. One market where you're going to become known, you're going to become the expert, you're going to become the voice of technology in that market, the voice of the future, the voice of AI, the voice of your services, a thought leader. Most of the times we think of our ideal market as an industry or vertical. And that's good shorthand, but a client profile actually has less to do with an industry and more to do with the problem that you solve. That problem can go across industries. Like we had one client who solved a specific problem for CFOs, or another who works with startups that are fast growing companies that are in constant growth mode. More often, though, it is a subset of an industry. Accountants who use Thomson Reuters, or personal injury attorneys who use a specific software. How do you choose? Well, you look at your current client base. Which clients do you enjoy working with? Where do you have expertise or interest? Interest can be just as important as expertise in the beginning. So start where you have some clients and you have interest, where you're going to have some fun. There's nothing wrong with having fun,
I think
guys.
that's key. Yeah, actually, go where you have fun, right? Because that's when you can put time into something, to learning it.
When I picked architecture firms, it wasn't random. I already had a 2 clients, and I love those clients. I love working with them. I love the technologies that I was able to implement there, the new ideas. I always could come with a new idea and pitch it with them. I liked the work. And I learned their work well enough to see problems they didn't even know they had. They didn't know they had project management problems because they manage everything on Excel, and it's like that's it. Like it's all that work on Excel. And then when we
Yeah,
put in project
good point.
software, their lives changed. It changed. And that's the test. If you can see problems your clients haven't identified yet, you found your market.
What's interesting about that too is a lot of MSPs will go to clients and say, what do you need? Do
Yeah.
you need project management software? And it's a funny thing because they may really, really need project management software, but they have no idea that they need project management software because they've never used it. They don't use
Yeah.
it, and life has been going on just fine. Another one is when people go in and say, "Hey, how can AI help you?" They don't know how AI can help them.
Yeah.
That that's like you you that's the opportunity for you, right? And really, you can start anywhere. A lot of MSPs define their ideal client based on an industry, which is completely fine. Because we're talking about it being a problem, and it is more of a problem than an industry. Completely fine to think of it at first as an industry. What almost always happens is that as you progress, you'll probably narrow down to something narrower than lawyers, like personal injury attorneys, or I don't know, maybe you don't like personal injury attorneys, so maybe you prefer
Stress in
pet
the States.
lawyers
Stress
or
in the
or
States.
or something along those lines, right? I don't know. Um, but whatever you choose, you're going to end up getting narrower because you're going to see a lot more variety and a lot more detail than you currently see because you haven't been studying it. And then there's this issue of the fear, right? You mentioned it earlier, Joe, is,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I have to get rid of all my clients, or I'm turning people away. Um, it doesn't actually mean that. It means leading with a focus. Your website speaks to architects, your marketing speaks to architects, your case studies feature architects, and we're not saying that you have to get rid of all your clients who aren't that ideal client profile right away. It But eventually it'll probably just happen naturally as you start growing and developing a reputation in this one area. Uh,
Mhm.
but Seth Godin says, if you are marketing to everybody, you are marketing to nobody. So if you're not focusing, you think are going after a bigger market, but actually you aren't talking to anybody. And so what happens is over time, if a law firm calls begging you for support, you can decide if you want to do that. It's your option.
Yeah.
Um, and over time, I'm telling you, you will want to do it less and less.
Yeah. When I think about it, honestly, that's what happened to me. At first, I still took the random calls, but the more I leaned into my ideal client, the less I wanted to deal with clients who weren't in my wheelhouse. I had referral partners. I just sent those people out to somebody else. The work was easier. The conversations were better when I was focused in my lane, when I stayed in my lane. And the
And the money,
money
Joe?
was, oh, the money was so good, Jeff. The money was so good. So good. So eventually you just stop wanting to go back because you lean harder and harder and harder. And the better you get, the more you can charge because the value that you provide is worth it to the client and they want it. So, step two. Step two is you have to package your solution around a business outcome. I'm going to say that again. Step two is you have to package your solution around a business outcome. Stop describing what you do in terms of technology. No techno vomit, please. We monitor your network and manage and manage endpoints and handle your help desk. Stop talking about that. Nobody cares. Your clients care about running their business. Think about it. You care about running your business. So instead, describe what you do in terms of the problem you solve for that specific market. For my architecture clients is we keep your projects on schedule by making sure your technology never causes delay. We protect your project files. We guarantee your team can access what they need from anywhere, whenever they need it. And we handle the compliance documentation so you never get caught off guard. So the DOB can't sneak up on you and say, "Where's this file?" And you don't know where it is. You always know where it is. And you can just ask, which version of the file do you want? And DOB can go, "Oh, you got versions?" And you go, "Yeah." Right? So same services underneath, completely different conversation and a completely different price point.
So it's not that you changed what you delivered. It's not even that you did something different. So there was some of that, right? As you got better at it and you did more, you did start installing fiber optic networks, and there was stuff that was specific to the architects. But even more important was changing how you framed it. So the technical work can stay the same. And often, guys, the majority of the technical work is the same across all clients. But the value story is different. What it means is different. He's speaking their language. You have to speak their language.
Mm.
And that's why the price can be different. They understand what it is you're offering.
So, and so that brings me to step three, which is you have to calculate the value that you deliver. And this is where it gets real. This is where the rubber meets the road. What's a day of downtime worth to an architecture firm? If they have a project with a deadline penalty, like I had clients that did a lot of HUD projects, like, for the city, and they did all these projects. Those projects have deadline penalties, and it could be $10,000 a day or more. So what is that? What is that worth? What's compliance failure worth? right? It could be worth the whole project. If the one thing is wrong, whatever they made, they
Yeah.
lose all that profitability. So when you can quantify that, pricing becomes simple. Your price floor is still three times your cost, but your price ceiling is about one third of the value you deliver. So if you're preventing a $30,000 a year downtime risk and compliance exposure, you can charge $10,000 a year and your client will feel like they're getting a bargain. They'll know they're getting a bargain. And I'm going to put that in real architecture numbers. Instead of charging $60,000 or $70,000 for 20 users, you can charge $200,000 for 20 users, but the architect knows that they're going to make $1 million working with you and that they're going to save time, they're going to save money, and they know what's in it for them. They need to understand the value and know what's in it for them. The gap between your costs and that value ceiling is where confident pricing lives. And the only way you get there is to know your client's business well enough to quantify what your work is actually worth to them.
And here's why most MSPs can't do this. And again, why most entrepreneurs can't do this. On one hand, our avatar, our ideal client profile is MSPs, but on the other,
Yeah.
I want everybody to realize that this isn't an MSP issue. This is an entrepreneur issue. Everybody faces this.
Yes.
And we all struggle to do this, not because the math is hard, but because we don't know our clients' businesses well enough. So when you serve everybody, you can't go deep on anyone. You don't know what a day of downtime costs a dental practice versus a law firm versus a manufacturing company. So you default to cost-based pricing because it's the only number you actually have. It's the only one that you can use as a benchmark.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that picking a market fixes. When you focus on one type of client, you learn over time what their problems cost. And when you know what their problems cost or what their opportunity is, right, what they can create, then you know what your solution is worth.
So that brings me to step 4, which is you have to lead with the value in every conversation, every single one.
Yeah.
Not some
Don't hide it.
conversations. Once you've done the first 3 steps, your sales conversations change completely. You're not walking and saying, here's our per user price. You're walking and saying, here's the problem you have. Here's what it's costing you. Here's how we solve it. And here's what it's worth. But they're happy to hear what it's worth when they know that you know their problem. And that's a completely different meeting. The prospect isn't comparing your per user price to the next guy because the next guy didn't say what you said. They're evaluating whether your solution is worth the investment. And if you've learned about their needs, the answer is almost always yes, because you're speaking their language.
So let's try and tie this together, Joe. So last week we talked about fear being the thing that's holding you back in terms of creating your prices and keeping your prices down.
Yeah.
No, this week we're saying that even after you get past the fear, you can't just raise the number. Yeah, you have to know why you're raising the number. You have to know what the value is. You have to rebuild the foundation for the new number. And so when you pick your market, design a product and specify the problem, you can quantify the value and then you can lead with it. And that's the S in the scale framework. Set the foundation. It's the first step to the MSP to BSP transformation because nothing else works without it. You can't market effectively if you're marketing to everyone. You'll never be able to afford it. You can't sell prescriptively if you don't know your client's problems. You can't
Mhm.
price confidently if you don't know what your work is worth, not what it costs, guys,
Yeah.
not how much effort it is, but what it is worth, what the value of it is.
Yes.
So, hey,
Yes.
if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, I would like to stop competing on price, or maybe, hey, I'd like to work less and make more money. Or even, I know I need to narrow down my market, but I don't know how. That's what the scale program is for. It's the step-by-step process for going from we do IT for small businesses to a focused, positioned business service partner with a named solution and a price that you are confident in.
Start with the assessment. If you haven't done it yet, just start. It's free. It gives you specific guidance on what you need to do next. And you have the option of saving it in your profile so that you can track your progress. So the link is in the show notes. Make sure that you grab it there and do it today. Do the assessment, see where you are.
And I'm particularly proud of the whole profile thing because I sort of put that together, and it's all a stroke of genius as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know
It's
what you
true.
guys think. We'll let the world decide whether it's genius or not. But at any rate, go check out the assessment. Thank you for watching. If this was useful, please subscribe. Let us know. Comment, like, hate. I don't know. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. We're here every week-ish. I don't like to make promises I can't keep, but we try to be here every week. But sometimes we're not. And on that, I think we will be here next week. So
We'll see you next week.